Alright gamers, this is the fourth character to be created for the Mutants and Masterminds game that we'll be playing on Thursdays. So let's go over and meet the player and take a look at his character. Alright gamers, here we are. I am back. We are with the fourth player in our Thursday Mutants and Masterminds game that will be starting next week. This is Adam. Adam, say hello.
Hello, gamers.
All right, so he's put together a pretty interesting character, just like everyone else has. And we're going to get into it right now. We're going to go right over to Roll20, and we're going to start talking about his character that we just got finished putting together here. All right, so Adam, why don't you tell us about the concept? What is this character? Who is this character?
So my concept when I started out was I, wanted a ninja character. And then as I was kind of developing that along, I like the idea of Batman and Rorschach from, comic books. And so I kind of said, okay, well, let's make him, sort of like a vigilante in a neighborhood. He's trying to defend people and help them get by in their day-to-day lives. But I also wanted him to have some kind of cool powers because it's just not a superhero game for me if they don't have something that nobody else can do. And so, he's a ninja. So I said, all right, well, let's literally give him the ability to like manipulate the shadows and that kind of thing. And so that's really where I ended up.
All right, cool. So let's start looking at some stats here. So obviously stats are like one of the most important things. So with abilities, right, your strength, agility, fighting, all that stuff, you pretty much put points in every stat. Now, why did you make this decision?
That's probably a like flaw that I have from trying to make, an evenly balanced character. But I wanted him to be kind of well-rounded. The only, like you said, the only thing that he doesn't have above a 0 is intellect because he's not necessarily smarter than the average person. But he's a ninja, so he's got to be kind of strong. He's going to be fighting with his hands. He's got to be, definitely agile and have good fighting. He's got to be able to throw stuff. And then like awareness and presence, he's intimidating and he's aware of what's going on around him. So I was really just trying to take this picture that I had of this character in my mind and give him stats that made sense but were also within my PowerPoint budget.
Okay. And then power level 5, right? Now, you're relatively new to Mutants and Masterminds. Is this correct?
Right.
Okay. So you've made some other characters. Like, what power level have you been playing at?
Normally I just do 10 because that's kind of, the recommended in the book, and you can make some pretty interesting stuff with 150 points.
Mm-hmm. Now, how was it working with only 75 points at power level 5?
It was honestly a lot more freeing, I feel like, because, when you don't have so much to work with, you kind of have to prioritize a little bit more. Like, okay, I have to put some good stuff. I have to spend a good amount of points in my abilities because, I like this may be all that I have left. At the end of the day, my character may have to rely on their strength or their agility. They're not going to have some crazy, like enhanced strength or something like that. And then, in some ways, when it came like to crunch time and I was shaving off points trying to get it within the bounds of 75, there was like, well, I really wish I had more to put in this skill or that skill because I want him to have a higher bonus, but, it's just not there. So he's going to have to be a little bit more novice in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, 75 points, like it sounds like a lot, but when you start putting the points around, you're like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. Then you realize, wow, I've spent, 110 or whatever. Now you got to start, shaving the fat. So it's definitely like it's a learning experience. Like when I started doing it, lower power levels, because I started at 10 as well. And you can, like you said, you can make quite a lot of characters that can do almost really anything with 150 points. But 75, you kind of have to just kind of focus in on what the character does and what the character is, and make your purchases based on that.
Yeah, and when I actually put him together, like keeping in mind, oh, he's a power level 5 character, so he's not going to be crazy. When I did that without really thinking too much about the point optimization, he still came out as like 99 points, and I had to shave off a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you were like surprised. You're like, wow, oh, this has got to go and this has got to go. But from what like looking at it, which we're gonna get more into here in a minute, like it's a really well done character. I think like all the four of you have created some really unique characters. Nobody's like the same concept. Everybody does something different. Everybody's like, just like how there's people in the world that are totally different. Everyone is totally different, and everybody kind of fills that the classic kind of role in a group. And then, all right, so looking at your defenses now, you've got some pretty good defenses here. You've pretty much maxed defenses because you have five. You ended up with 5 in everything except for fortitude. So power level times 2 is, or well, yeah. So basically, the two stats put together can't be more than double the power level, which is really good. So your defenses are on par to, especially being like a melee type fighter. Because some of the other guys are not melee fighters, and their defenses are wildly different. If you've watched those other videos, viewers, you'll see those differences. So, how do you feel about your defenses? How they worked out? Does this work out as planned?
I honestly did not expect his toughness to end up as high as it did. So he only has stamina 1, and it was originally 2, but I had to shave that down. I figured he's not nearly that tough, but it just kind of came about as a result of like, well, he needs to have defensive role because that kind of makes sense for what he's a martial artist, he's a ninja, that just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my mind, he also wears like a little bit of armor, not he's not like walking around in a battle suit or anything, but he does have some armor, so that's going to impart some protection. And so it just kind of happened that his toughness and dodge and parry all came out to 5, when originally I kind of just thought only he would be like the character that wants to really avoid not to avoid getting hit, but if he does get hit, he's going to have a hard time. But he's kind of maxed out in that regard, so I think he's going to do really well as far as defenses go there.
Excellent. Yeah, that's some pretty, like I said, that's pretty solid defenses right there. You're going to be pretty tough. All right, so let's talk about skills. So obviously we're doing, you got your ninja theme, your ninja concept. Talk to me about your skills. Why did you buy what you did?
So, I kind of started with this idea that he's a ninja. I want him to be really stealthy. So that's kind of where I ended up with the plus 11 in stealth. It was originally going to be like a plus 13 or something like that, because I had his ranks and stealth up to 11, but I cut those down. And then I just kind of went logically from there. Like, so he's going to be climbing and sneaking and everything. He'll probably need a lot of acrobatics. He'll probably need a lot of athletics. And then I went to stuff that he might not necessarily use as much, like deception. So just because he's a sneaky guy doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be bluffing and lying to people all the time. But I put a point or 2 in it because it would be useful to have, especially if he has to. I think there are some combat maneuvers that require like deception checks in combat, so I figured he might be good at those, or getting good eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I put a lot of points in like investigation and perception, because going back to that vigilante mentality, he's trying to protect his neighborhood, he's trying to keep people safe. So if ever there's like been a crime committed, he's going to be trying to track people down, and he may not necessarily be the best at it because he's still learning, but it is one of his better skills at this point because he's been doing it for a while.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, skills, like when you have a character concept, selecting the proper skills that really match that concept and allow you to flesh that concept out to give it the ability to do what it's supposed to do is actually a pretty satisfying thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I definitely like, at a higher power level, taking skills that aren't necessarily, as on concept as some of the ones I have here are, but so like one character that I've made is a knight that was pulled out of time and got thrust into the present. But in his time, he was like a witch hunter, and he was involved in a lot of guerrilla warfare with like the forces of darkness, and so he has some stealth ranks, even though he's going to be like the party's tank. It's good to use skills to like add flavor to your character, to take that concept and make it more of a reality, a mechanical reality at the table.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of people that may be starting out, like say like how you overspent points. They're like, well, where am I going to cut? Most people will go to skills and just start cutting the fat there. But then when they get in the game, then they realize that they can't really do anything. Like they're failing rolls. They're even like moderate DC checks. They can't succeed regularly, and they're like, man, why does my character stink? Skills, super important. I can't stress that enough. For those of you that are watching that are even not even this game, Dungeons and Dragons, any game that has skill systems similar, don't neglect your skills. Okay.
Yeah, I actually honestly did that myself, and I may come to regret, shaving so many points off of certain skills, but we shall see when we get in the game.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on to powers, advantages, and equipment. All right, so talk to me about your powers and devices and all this stuff you've got here.
So we'll start with powers. The main one, kind of the staple of his whole kit at this point, is like the one with the shadows, the ability to kind of melt into the darkness when he's in an area of low light. So the concept for this character is that he's learning about a technique to draw this sort of dark power from a different dimension. And so far, he can only do a couple of things with it. One of them is making himself more stealthy, but he can't like eventually he'll be able to like create shadows and melt into those if he wants to, or teleport through shadows, which I think is just totally metal. But
Mm-hmm.
at this point, all he can really manage is to blend in, and people can still like bump into him or hit him. If he's in an explosion while concealed, that's not going to help him because he's still physically there, just not visually. And then I took like eyes in the dark, the ability, it's basically dark vision from D&D, just because I like the idea that maybe if we're ever in a tight spot, I can use my shuriken to knock out the lights and then just totally go to town on the enemies if we need to do something like that. And
Okay.
I don't want to be hampered by the darkness, especially since he's supposed to be gaining the ability to control it.
Yeah, definitely. I was about to say that. I'm thinking that if you're going to be learning to manipulate, control, and use darkness as a tool and as a weapon, one of the first thing you would be able to learn would be the ability to see through, or to at least see in the darkness. So like when you're hidden in the darkness, you're not blind. So which is good. You thought ahead. I like that.
Yeah, and then the armor really is just it's a device. It's not necessarily a power. It's just like I said, the armor he wears to give himself some more protection.
Yep. So you have protection 3, removable, and it's noticeable. So that's why it's only the 1 point. So it saves on points, but it works the theme, right? It's for the theme.
Yeah, exactly. Like if a guy's walking around in armor, people are going to notice, and oh, he's going to be tougher than the average dude because he's wearing armor.
Mm-hmm. I like it. So what does this armor look like? Can you kind of describe what you look like in your whole getup?
Yeah, and I really, I'm not very creative, so I just, in my mind, it's a lot like Deathstroke's armor, except it's mainly black, but it has like blue stripes and symbols along it in certain areas that kind of match like this headband that he wears over his eyes.
Okay.
Just something simple, something not necessarily super noticeable if he's trying to be stealthy, but it is unique enough to make him identifiable.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so let's look at advantages. So talk to me about advantages.
All right, so the first advantage we got here, and this is kind of a good, for people who are newer to the game, like I took close attack 3 rather than, making that a skill. It would have been cheaper as a skill if I had taken, close attack or close combat, whatever thing he uses while he's fighting, because I want him to kind of have the ability to fight with whatever he's holding in close combat, because that just kind of, again, it's more on theme, and it was more expensive, but it fits better with the character concept.
Because when you take close combat skill, you have to specify, what this skill governs. Is it unarmed? Is it this? Is it that? This is a little more open-ended, so you still get your bonuses.
Exactly. And so like if you take close combat, unarmed, you won't actually get that bonus when you're doing like grabs and throws and that kind of stuff, because it's really that specific. It's that nailed down that much. So like right now he has ranged combat, like shuriken, if he tries to throw a knife, he's not going to be as good with it because he's just, he knows how to throw shuriken, and the aerodynamics are totally different. And I'm sure people who are actually good at fighting will be able to explain that better than I could. But you get what I'm saying.
Definitely. All right, I see you took some defensive role. All right, so that's definitely, I can see that on martial artists all day.
Yep, and I originally had more ranks in this, but I decided I had to cut some down first because of the limits imposed by power level. But also something to consider if you're ever making a character with a defensive role is if they're ever surprised or something, they lose that bonus, and their toughness, just drops down to whatever it is based on their stamina. So that can be kind of a double-edged sword that you need to watch out for.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then improved initiative, right? Classic. Bonuses to initiative, so you can try to go first.
Yep, just want him to, he's definitely quick on the draw because he has what's it called, uncanny dodge later on. I've taken that advantage as well. So he's really, he's not the sort of person to be surprised, and when danger shows up, he's definitely going to be quick on his feet, and that's kind of what I was going for.
Okay, sounds good. So we got move by action. All right. So you can move before and after your standard action. Because I'm assuming, ninjas, they're very mobile. They're not like big tanky fighters where they just stand and punch, right? You're going to be moving around a lot, shadows to shadows, making strikes. Is this correct? Am I in the same assumption here?
Yeah, I feel like move by action. For someone like me, I like to get kind of detailed when I'm describing, what my character is doing. And so, for example, if my character is like up on a ledge and there are some bad guys below, and he leaps off and throws some shuriken at them and then lands, mechanically he has moved, attacked, and then finished his move. And I don't think you can do that kind of stuff without move by action. I think that's kind of what it's for. You want to be able to, blend your movement into your attacks, and I just like doing that kind of thing.
Okay, definitely goes well with the theme. So we have the classic quick draw, right? You can draw your weapon as a free action.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be important with like his ninja tools that he has. Being able to whip those out and use them in the same turn, and still move around.
Okay, and then we took power attack, so you can trade your attack bonus for effect bonus.
Yeah, so I like the idea of power attack for a character like this because he is his offenses are not that high, for the power level. So this is, if he ever comes up against a foe that is like easy to hit, but he just can't pierce their defense, he can sacrifice his accuracy and his control for the ability to land a killing blow, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that. That's a good way to describe that. Most people think power attack is something like a barbarian or a big fighter would take. They're just like going in with reckless abandon for the killing strike. But you're doing it as like a more methodical, like you've judged the enemy and be like, well, I can hit him easily, but I really need to pierce his defenses. Like you said, you're able to do that and still maintain the character concept.
Yeah, and for like a big heavy fighter, I would actually go for something more like accurate attack because at that point you're, assuming your character has had fighting training of some kind, you can say, okay, I'm hitting them with everything I got. It's not working. I can't, land a punch. I need to like cool it and aim a little bit more. That's how I think about those two. They're almost like complementary abilities, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, so now for Mutants and Masterminds, you got the classic takedown, right? You get a free extra attack when you incapacitate a minion. So when you're fighting the street thugs or whatever in groups, they're easier to take down. Once you take down one, you can instantly go to the next one.
Yeah, because it's sort of like that whole Batman concept, right? You kind of lure the thugs all into the same location, and you drop into the middle of them and just take them out all at once. It's that sort of thing that I was going for.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And then there's your uncanny dodge, so you're not vulnerable when you're surprised or caught off guard. Then you've got agile feint.
Yep, I wanted to really take advantage of his higher acrobatic skill to give him an admit like. So the way I'm picturing it in my head is if he's fighting somebody and he tries to feint, he doesn't necessarily like bluff them into thinking he's doing something. He's actually going to be able to change his movement so quickly that they won't be able to react to it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent choice, especially for the stealthy ninja type concept. Oh, great. And then you got the hide in plain sight, of course. I love me some hide in plain sight.
Yep, because that's gives you the ability to just vanish. Basically, again, going right back to Batman. Just 1 second you're there, people are talking to you, they turn around and you're just gone.
Oh yeah, the classic. All right, so now you got well informed. What about so your choice on well informed? Kind of talk about that.
So I want him to kind of know what is going on because, like I said, he's trying to defend his neighborhood. I felt like he would know like who the big names are, who the gangsters are, who's in power, who's not, that sort of thing. Just sort of he absorbed all of this information via osmosis as he spent time on the streets. And I kind of wanted him to fill that party role of, oh, who is so and so? Well, let me see if I know who he is. Roll the dice, and if then he's the head of this gang, or he's in charge of this trust fund, or whatever we need to know.
Cool, I like that. And then you took equipment, 4 ranks, so you get basically 20 points of equipment that we're going to talk about here in a second. And this is going to be like your ninja tools, right? Your utility belt kind of thing, right?
You're right, exactly.
All right, well, let's go and get into that. So we got ninja tools down here. So talk to us about this array.
So and this goes back to just classic ninja, stuff like, I'm a big Naruto fan. I don't know if that makes me lame or anything, but I like the idea that in addition to being able to lay the smackdown on somebody when he's in close range, I also have some tools if I need to get away, or if there are too many enemies and I need to blind some of them. So I just it's mainly utility stuff like flash bombs. Dazzle will make them worse, I think, at anything that requires a visual check.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a flashbang grenade without the bang. Smoke bombs, very advantageous for someone like a ninja who needs to be able to make a stealth check or something like that. It'll allow him to go into stealth and then get away. Or alternatively, if a bunch of thugs show up with assault rifles, I can throw that on them and suddenly they won't be able to see without moving out of it. That sort of thing.
Anybody that's watched Ninja Turtles, like the old movies, back from the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, whenever that was, mid 90s. Yeah, they used the smoke bombs quite a lot in there.
Yeah, and then sleep gas pellets. It's just another form of crowd control, which it probably doesn't matter what RPG you're playing. Crowd control is always going to be king. The ability to control action economy. So, and also I felt like if we ever needed to sneak into a place or something, the ability to put somebody to sleep from a distance would come in handy.
And I know that, so before we started shooting here, we had talked about you wanted to drop the sleep gas pellets, correct?
Yeah, because just by talking to some of the other folks on who are going to be playing this game, I feel like they have some control type abilities, and when I'm playing in a game, I like for my character to be able to do a certain unique set of skills, and for other people to do different things. That way, we're not stepping on each other's toes. If everybody gets their moment in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you said that they didn't really have anything like this, and it would come in very handy. So we decided to stick with it. I actually got rid of a grenade area damage effect that I had instead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And see, also, the sleep gas, because one of the things I also talked about is that what if there's that moment when you get separated from the group, or you have to undertake a mission, or you have to sneak in somewhere by yourself. The rest of them can't come with you because maybe you're the only one that can get in there, and you're gonna get into a situation where, man, I wish I could put these guys to sleep. It's better that they have it and never need it than need it and not have it. You know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, and then I know one of the new things we added the dragon talons. Talk about dragon talons.
So, and this is something where you inspired me, with the idea of putting brass knuckles on his feet, because I wanted him to be a martial artist, but brass knuckles are kind of only something you use with your hands. But so these are like, these metallic attachments that he like has the knuckles on his hands, and he has these sort of like steel-toed, steel-soled boots that he wears that basically give him the ability to do a little bit more damage than just his strength would normally allow him to do. Because at that point, not only is he hitting somebody with his muscles, but they're also suffering the damage, and contusions and lacerations from these actual metallic objects that are hitting them.
Hmm. Which is great. I mean, because like, I think one of the things we talked about was Warframe. If anybody's played Warframe before, their unarmed weapon sets. You get something for the hands and the feet as well because it blends punches and kicks together, so you get the same damage spread whether you're punching or kicking. And I thought that would be really good because I mean, you're gonna you always see a lot of fluid combat. Punch strikes to the face and roundhouse kicks and all this other stuff. You want to make sure that you can have the same damage using the same equipment to anybody you hit.
And then, last thing, Shuriken. It's just a classic. You got to have it if you're going to play ninja, I
Oh
think.
yeah, man, yeah. You gotta have shuriken. If you don't have shuriken, you're not ninja, or at least kunai or something. I too am a Naruto fan. I've played the RPG, played the crap out of that. My friends say that that's like the game that I ran of that was my best work. They still talk about it, and that was like 10 years ago.
Wait.
So
There's actually a Naruto RPG.
yeah, so when we're done with this, we'll get over in Discord, and I'll get you a link to it. It's homebrewed. It's kind of like the Pokemon RPGs that were made. It's all like community based for the people that love those that love Pokemon. They made that. People that love Naruto, they made this whole RPG system. Is based on the D20 Modern system. Uses the same kind of classes: strong hero, tough hero, all that other stuff. But then you have all the techniques and all the ninja stuff. It's fantastic. I'll get you a link and you can check it out because it's one of the games. If these Mutants and Masterminds games go over well, I want to run other role playing games as well. I want to run Pokemon. I want to run Dungeons and Dragons. I want to run Naruto. I want to run this and that. So hopefully this goes well and we can maybe get a game of that going.
Sweet.
All right. So now let's talk about backstory because you kind of had some stuff and we talked a little bit and we've come up with some really cool ideas. So I'll let you take it away and then I'll just kind of chime in when needed.
So the backstory that I've kind of settled on, and I just need to type it up at this point because right now I've got it all on my brain, um, is that this guy, and I haven't actually given him a real name yet because I'm terrible at coming up with those. But this guy, Shadow Dragon, his parents were both like, superhero vigilante types back when it was still okay to be that. And because they refused to, like bend the knee and register and everything and give up that life, stop defending people, they were eventually hunted down and killed and kind of, left him alone sort of without parents, and he kind of had to grow up on his own, really, in foster care, that sort of thing, just learning how to live life, rather than letting that be a reason why he would become a villain. He kind of said, I want to stand up for the little guy too. I think it's important, especially in the setting that you've described, which is very bleak and is definitely in need of some heroes. So he starts like standing up to the playground bullies and breaking up gang violence, that kind of thing. Eventually, he meets this woman who I've also not named yet, and she is like a little bit older, and she's got like a cane. She walks with a limp, that sort of thing, and she sort of takes him in as a mentor. She starts to instruct him, in the ways of the ninja because her grandfather and she were both ninja, like legit ninja. Um, and she starts to teach him, how to tap into this dark energy. And that's actually, something that I'm going to add as a complication. We're going to get into that in the game. She was injured because they're drawing on this power from an extra dimensional being that doesn't want them to do that, and it's trying to, like gain control of them and injure them and take over their bodies, that kind of thing. So she's basically passing the mantle on to him because she is not fit to do what her grandfather did anymore. She can't wield the power and protect people with it anymore. So by day, they both run like a noodle shop together in this neighborhood that he defends, and he's just a delivery boy on his crappy little bicycle riding around town. People disrespect him, that kind of thing. But by night, he puts on the headband and everything. He gets out there and busts some heads. Something we talked about. This isn't really like a feature or anything, but they're gonna have like a. Actually, do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, why don't you talk about it? And then if I need to chime in, I'll put in my 2 cents.
Okay, so they do like their training and stuff in like this little underground speakeasy because it's kind of it was built into the sewer systems of the city during the time of Prohibition, and no one ever came in and like uh, demolished it or anything, and so it's kind of like this little ignored part of the city that no one ever thinks, oh, maybe we should check in here for like vigilantes or stuff. And that kind of serves as his base when he's not at home or at work. That's
Hmm.
where he goes to like have some solitude, that kind of thing. It's his bat cave.
Yeah, which is cool, because I kind of had that idea, the because Prohibition, they had like the hidden entrances to these tunnels from the speakeasy to other places. That's how they bring in the liquor and bring in clients, or like if they were getting raided, that's how the clients would get out through some of those. I was like, well, it'd be kind of cool, like if this noodle shop was maybe like a renovated old speakeasy over the years, and it still had those accesses to those tunnels, and then you get those tunnels, and maybe you've made a little extra space in there that's hidden for your training and like your little hideout. I mean, it is your bat cave, but obviously it doesn't have supercomputers and all this other stuff. It's just going to have the basic stuff, training equipment, medical supplies, that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things that you definitely want to improve. You're like, oh, I can see a computer over here, and I can have some stuff here and stuff here. It's definitely a work in progress, and I think your character would find it like a great sense of pride that he has his own little nook, his own little bat cave, kind of thing in the city that nobody knows about.
Right, assuming it doesn't get found out and destroyed by his enemies at some point in the game.
Yes, I mean, story stuff. I'm not gonna, it's one of those things that will just kind of go in the story, right? It's one of those things that he's got to be super careful about, right? He doesn't just go, walking in there in a daze, right? No, you get double back and hide your tracks, and then you sneak in there, and you've done so for several years. You just got to be super careful, and anybody that goes down there has got to be super careful as well.
All right, well, I am very excited about that.
Cool. Yeah, I think this is going to be this is the fourth character in this series. I think this character is going to be a great complement to all the other characters that are in there. I'm really excited to see how some of these encounters and things that I have planned out, like how they're going to go, because you guys have such a wide variety of abilities. Some encounters might be trivial, some of them might be more difficult. I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see where it's going to go here in the near future.
Yep, and that's one of the joys of the game is just kind of having some challenges, telling a good story with some other people.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I'm glad you're excited. I'm excited. Everyone else is super excited. You viewers at home, I hope you, after you're watching this, you're going to be excited to see these games. Eventually, I'm planning on live streaming things like this, but for now, I'm just gonna record it, the game sessions, then I'll upload it to my channel. So make sure you subscribe, so you get notified when I upload that stuff, so you can come watch and post comments on how you think the game is going. And then a couple of more questions though. So where do you see this character going in the future? Right, you've played a couple of sessions, you've got a few extra points, the power level's been increased. Where does this character go from here?
As he develops, obviously he's going to keep improving as a martial artist and everything. His physical abilities are going to go up. I really like the idea of him, learning more about how to control, shadows and darkness and that kind of thing. So, for example, like right now he has a flash bomb, but maybe in the future, um, he'll have an ability that's like linked to an environment effect, and he basically pulls the light from around him and throws a ball of shadow at his enemies that then explodes and releases all of the light that he has absorbed, and that's how he blinds them. that kind of stuff. Just really getting crazy with that concept and taking it to its natural limit.
Awesome. That'll be exciting to see. Definitely see how the character evolves from where he's at now. Once you get to there, what has he seen? What has he done? How's the story progressed? It's one of the things you're just gonna have to stay tuned and watch. So then, do you have any other questions for me about the character? Obviously, information about the game. We're gonna, I'm gonna get it all worked up, and then we're gonna go over it before we start playing. But I've given you about as much information as that I have prepped. Plus, I want to keep a little bit of an air of mystery too. I want, you'd be like, oh, how's it gonna go? What's gonna happen? But any other questions you would have about the game, character creation, anything you want to tell the people at home that are going to view this when it comes to making characters?
I don't really have any other questions. I think I had a strong concept in mind once I got around to actually fleshing that out, and then I feel like I pretty much nailed it. So hopefully, he does well in the game. Like hopefully his stats are not garbage or anything, and I've just been wrong in everything that I've done.
All right. So if you got nothing else, we're going to wrap this one up here. So viewers, hope you stay tuned, and you're going to join us for our tabletop Mutants and Masterminds game that I'll be running on Thursday. I'll also have a game running on Friday as well. So I will be doing videos with the Friday group making characters, so you'll be able to see all those as well. Until then, we will see you again.
Have a good one.